Hey everyone, and welcome back to Talk Tensors. We're diving into a fascinating paper today, one that's making waves in the 3D point cloud world. It's called SA-MLP, a low-power multiplication-free deep network for 3D point cloud classification in resource-constrained environments.
That's quite a mouthful, right?
Yeah, but don't let the title scare you away. It's actually about something really cool. It's all about making complex 3D analysis work on, well, think like devices with limited power, like your phone or a drone even.
Exactly. This paper tackles the challenge of how to run sophisticated AI algorithms on devices without, totally draining the battery.
The need for speed and efficiency, right. Yeah. But before we get ahead of ourselves, maybe we should take a step back. For those who might be new to the world of 3D point clouds, what are they and why should we care about them?
Okay, so a point cloud, it's basically a collection of points in 3D space. Each point represents a specific location and might also include some additional information. Think color, texture, or reflectivity, that kind of thing.
So like a digital fingerprint of a 3D object or scene.
That's a great way to put it. And these fingerprints are used everywhere. Like self-driving cars use LiDAR sensors to create point clouds of their surroundings, which helps them, navigate and avoid obstacles.
Architects and engineers use them too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They're used to create super detailed 3D models of buildings and structures. And even in healthcare, they're being used for things like reconstructing organs and bones for, well, surgery planning and diagnosis.
So 3D point clouds are a pretty big deal, but analyzing this data hasn't always been easy.
Traditionally, it required some pretty beefy computers. The algorithms were very complex and, well, they gobbled up a lot of power.
Which brings us back to this paper and the idea of multiplication-free networks.
Yeah.
I have to admit, when I first heard that term, my brain kind of froze. I mean, can you really do deep learning without multiplications? That seems, I don't know, almost impossible.
Yeah, it does sound counterintuitive. I mean, we're so used to thinking of deep learning as this massive matrix multiplication fest. But researchers have been exploring alternative operations that are less computationally expensive.
Less expensive in terms of processing power.
Exactly. And surprisingly, these alternative approaches have shown some really promising results. There's a paper a few years back, AtterNet, that explored the idea of replacing multiplications with additions.
Just adding things up.
Well, it's a bit more complicated than that, of course, but the core idea is to simplify the math. And then there's deep shift, which took it a step further and replaced multiplications with bitwise shift operations.
Okay, I'm going to need a little more explanation on that one. What exactly is a bitwise shift?
So it's a low-level operation that manipulates individual bits, the zeros and ones that make up digital data. Essentially, you're shifting those bits left or right, which is actually a very efficient way to perform certain types of calculations.
So this paper is building on those ideas, right? But instead of just images or text, they're applying it to the unique challenges of 3D point cloud data.
You got it. They're taking those principles of efficiency and adapting them to a whole new domain.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. So how did they actually go about creating these multiplication-free networks for point clouds? Did they just start swapping out operations in existing models?
Well, they started with a baseline, a conventional model called MLP. It's a type of multi-layer perceptron network, an MLP, that's commonly used for processing point cloud data.
MLP, so the mul stands for multiplication, right?
Right. Think of it as a three-step process. You have a local embedding module first, which, well, extracts features from each point in the cloud. It's kind of like identifying the unique characteristics of each tree in a forest.
Okay, so each point gets its own little profile.
Exactly. Then there's an encoder, which takes all those individual features and combines them to create a representation of the entire point cloud.
So like getting a bird's eye view of the whole forest.
You got it. And finally, you have a classification header, which, well, uses that representation to predict what the point cloud represents. Like, is it a forest, a car, or a building?
Okay, so this MLP is the benchmark, the model they're trying to beat with their multiplication-free versions.
Exactly. And they came up with 3 contenders. Add MLP, as you might guess, it replaces those costly multiplications with, well, additions. Then there's Shift MLP, which relies solely on bitwise shifts.
And I'm guessing the third one is where things get really interesting.
You bet. It's called SA-MLP, and it's a hybrid. It cleverly alternates between those adder and shift layers, combining the strengths of both.
So tell me more about this SA-MLP. What makes it so special? Why is this hybrid approach so promising?
Well, The thing is, while shift operations are super efficient, they can be kind of limited in what they can do. It's like trying to describe a complex concept with a very limited vocabulary.
You need more expressive power, right?
Yeah. Right. And that's where additions come in. They allow for more sophisticated transformations, but come at a slightly higher, computational cost. SA-MLP finds a nice balance between the two.
Clever. So it's not just about blindly swapping out multiplications. It's about understanding the trade-offs and choosing the right tool for the job.
Exactly. And the researchers didn't just stop at designing the model, they also put a lot of thought into how to train it effectively.
Okay, so let's talk about training. How do they optimize SA-MLP to make sure it actually learns something useful?
They realized that adder layers need a bit of, special handling during training. The way they learn is different from traditional layers that use multiplication, and their gradients behave a bit differently.
Gradients.
Yeah, so gradients are essentially like signposts that tell the network which direction to adjust its weights to improve its performance.
Ah, okay. So the adder layers need different signposts.
In a way, yes. So they used a technique called gradient modulation to kind of fine-tune how those adder layers learn.
So they basically gave those layers some extra guidance during training.
You could say that. And it seems to have made a big difference. They also had to choose the right optimizer for training.
An optimizer.
Yeah, it's an algorithm that controls how the network updates its weights based on the gradients. There are tons of different optimizers out there, each with its own strengths and weaknesses. For the adder layers, they found that SGD, stochastic gradient descent, worked best.
So they had to tweak the training process to account for these new, more efficient operations. That's pretty cool. But the real question is, did all this careful design actually lead to better results?
That's what we're going to find out. Well, let's get into it. They tested these models on, a ModelNet 40. It's a pretty standard data set for 3D object classification. And get this, both the add-MLP and shift-MLP, they actually did really well.
Really? So ditching multiplications didn't totally tank the performance?
Nope, not at all. They achieved, competitive accuracy. And of course, they used significantly less computation.
Okay, so less power hungry, but still pretty accurate. That's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
But what about SA-MLP, the hybrid one? How did it stack up?
SA-MLP was the real star, honestly.
Okay, spill the beans. What kind of accuracy are we talking here?
It hit a whopping 93.9% on ModelNet 40.
Wow, that's incredible. So it not only beat the baseline MLP, but also, some other fancy state-of-the-art methods.
Yeah, it even outperformed a bunch of those more complex, computationally intensive methods.
That's a pretty big win, especially for anything that needs to run on, devices with limited resources. But what is it about this hybrid approach that makes it work so well? Is it just because additions and shifts are, cheaper computationally, or is there something more to it?
It's more than just being computationally cheap. It's the way they work together, Remember how we were talking about shifts being efficient but kind of limited in their expressive power?
Yeah, like trying to write a novel with a limited vocabulary.
Exactly. While additions bring that extra oomph to the table, they allow for more, complex and nuanced transformations. So by combining them strategically, the network can capture a wider range of patterns.
Like having different tools in your toolkit, right? Sometimes you need a hammer, sometimes you need a screwdriver.
That's a great analogy. And then there's the whole optimization strategy they use. It's not just about the operations themselves. It's also about, how you train those adder layers.
Okay, because they learn a bit differently, right?
Exactly. They require a different touch.
So what did they do differently?
Well, they used a technique called gradient modulation. It basically helps to fine-tune how those adder layers learn. It's kind of like giving them a little extra nudge in the right direction.
Interesting. So they tailored the training process to these new operations. But there's another key ingredient here, right? The architecture of SA-MLP itself.
You're right. They didn't just throw things together randomly. They were really careful to keep the network depth and parameter count the same as the baseline MLP.
Why is that important?
Well, think of it this way. You don't want to make the model too big or too complex, right? Because that would defeat the purpose of using, more efficient operations in the first place.
Ah, so they're being smart about keeping the model lean and efficient even while using these new techniques.
Exactly. And they didn't just stop at reporting the accuracy numbers. They also did some really cool analysis and visualizations of the features that the networks learned.
Oh, that's always interesting to see. What did they find?
Well, one thing they looked at was the TSNE visualizations.
Okay, for those of us who don't speak fluent deep learning, can you remind us what TSNE is all about?
Sure, it's a way to visualize high-dimensional data, like the features learned by a neural network in a lower dimensional space.
So instead of trying to wrap our heads around, like, 1,000 dimensions, we can see it in 2 or 3.
Exactly. It helps us get a sense of how the network is organizing information.
So what did the TSNE visualizations tell them about SA-MLP?
SA-MLP actually showed tighter clustering and, well, fewer outliers. And this is compared to the other models.
Okay, and why should we care about tighter clustering? What does that tell us about how well the model is doing?
Well, tighter clusters suggest that the model is better at, well, grouping similar things together. It's like imagine you're trying to classify different animals. A good model would put all the cats in one cluster, all the dogs in another, and so on.
Makes sense. So SA-MLP is doing a better job of separating those different classes, which is why it achieves higher accuracy.
Right. They also looked at the weight distributions, the parameters the network learns, and each model had its own unique pattern.
Like a fingerprint for each model.
Yeah, you could say that. MUL-MLP, it had a more, well, normal distribution. Shift-MLP was more discrete. And AD-MLP showed something called a Laplace distribution.
Okay, and what about our star player, SA-MLP?
It was like a beautiful blend of the three.
So did that tell us anything useful, or is it just a fun observation?
It actually hints at how these different operations change how a network learns, how it represents information.
So it's not just about computational efficiency, it's also about changing the way the network thinks about the world.
Exactly. And that opens up all sorts of interesting questions for future research. If we can achieve such great results with, well, simpler operations, what else is possible?
Now you're talking. That's what we love to ponder here at Talk Tensors. It's time for Novel Notions, the part of the show where we let our imaginations run wild and explore the potential of this research. What are some crazy ideas that could have a huge impact on the future of point cloud analysis and beyond?
Let's dive in. Well, we've been talking about MLPs, right? But what if we took this multiplication-free approach and applied it to other types of networks that, people use for point cloud analysis?
Okay, now you're talking. I like where this is going. What other networks are out there that we could, revamp with this approach?
Well, there's PointNet, for one. It's known for being pretty simple and efficient. And then you have PointCNN, which uses convolutional layers to, extract features. And of course, we can't forget about the transformer models like Point Transformer.
Right. Those are all big names in the point cloud world.
Yeah.
But they can also be pretty computationally heavy, right?
Exactly. So the question is, could we redesign them using these same, principles of addition and shift operations? Could we make them even more efficient without, sacrificing accuracy?
That's a fascinating thought. I mean, these architectures are quite different from MLP, so it wouldn't be a simple copy-paste job, right?
Definitely not. It would require some clever thinking and experimentation, but the potential payoff could be huge. Imagine like a super efficient point net running on a tiny sensor. It could open up a whole new world of possibilities for applications where, well, power and processing are limited.
Absolutely. It's like taking the best of both worlds. We get the power and expressiveness of these sophisticated architectures, but with the efficiency of these simpler operations.
Exactly. And, while we're on the topic of efficiency, let's talk about hardware for a second. Right now, most deep learning frameworks and hardware are optimized for, well, traditional multiplications.
Right. GPUs, for example, are designed to handle those massive matrix multiplications.
Yeah, but what if we had specialized hardware specifically designed for addition and shift operations? What if we built like an APU, an adder processing unit?
Okay, now that's a radical idea. An APU, I love it. So instead of trying to shoehorn these new algorithms onto, hardware that's not really meant for them, we build hardware that speaks their language.
Exactly. It would be like having a custom-built engine for a race car instead of trying to, modify a regular car engine. You'd get much better performance.
Right. We could see a huge jump in speed and, well, energy efficiency. Imagine running like SA-MLP on a dedicated APU. It could revolutionize fields like robotics, augmented reality, even, well, everyday devices.
You're getting it. We could have these super efficient AI systems embedded everywhere, constantly collecting and analyzing 3D data without, draining the battery in 5 minutes.
It's like the sci-fi future we've always dreamed of, AI that's seamlessly integrated into our lives, helping us understand and interact with the world in ways that were previously unimaginable.
And it's not just about fancy gadgets either. This could have a huge impact on sustainability.
Yeah.
Imagine using AI to optimize energy consumption in buildings or to, monitor and protect endangered species in remote environments.
This is why we do what we do here at Talk Tensors. We explore these cutting-edge ideas, even the ones that sound a little crazy, because we believe that AI has the potential to make the world a better place.
I completely agree.
So to wrap things up, folks, we've taken a deep dive into the fascinating world of multiplication-free networks. We've seen how they can achieve impressive accuracy while using significantly less power. We've explored the potential of adapting these techniques to other network architectures, and we've even dared to dream about specialized hardware that could unlock a whole new level of performance.
It's been an incredible journey, and it's only just beginning.
We encourage you to check out the original paper. The link is in the show notes. And if you have any thoughts, questions, or maybe even some of your own novel notions, we'd love to hear from you.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible with AI.
From all of us here at Talk Tensors, thanks for tuning in.